Hey everybody. You did that Mr. Rogers opening, right? Take off the take off the shoes. And what he put on different shoes, didn't he? He had like house shoes. Yeah, I think that's what he did. Gosh, I gotta go find a Mr. Rogers episode. My coworkers keep popping in here. They're like, you need to put something on the board behind you. Yeah, I moved more stuff around yesterday. It looks nicer. Though honestly, I really gonna have to clean underneath the desks in here. Yeah. And in the drawers of the desks. Oh yeah, I opened above one. I'm gonna have to clean them, but that's for like later this summer. I'll work on it. So a suggestion was made. RPG Grandma needs a mascot, and they think they know what it is. So yeah, uh, I'll have to, I guess, do some art over this summer, so I can have post uh, something that's portable behind me in my office, not office. So I missed Monster Monday, because I was doing other stuff on Monday. We went to that memorial in Yuba City, which was really, really, really good. But it was really long. We had no idea it was going to be as long as it was. We had no idea. So, but it was worth the time, absolutely. So I had been doing a thing with GURPS. I showed you like the space aliens ideas they had in their third edition space resource book. What do you guys want to call that? Splat book? I don't know. Genre book. Well, they have more aliens because they have different genre books that they've done over the years. I think that's what I'm going to go with, genre themes. And one of the books that has aliens in it, right there, see that flying saucer thing? Is this one, Atomic Horror, which has great ideas, period. It doesn't really matter what game system you use this with. It's just awesome fun. So I thought maybe we'd look at, don't necessarily have pictures and everything. They do have samples, but for instance, they have the Loi, 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 I'm guessing. So these are your completely humanoid looking aliens that you have in UFO movies and in UFO lore. Okay. So if you're into like having, into reading that other stuff, like up on UFOs and Bigfoot and all that stuff, you know what I'm talking about. I think they're called something else in that material, so I'll have to go find. I have somewhere a UFO book I bought used because I'm like, cool, UFO book. I haven't seen one of these since I was a kid, so I bought it used, and it's in my library somewhere. Maybe I'll have to pull that out and we can take a look at their names. But they have a representation of that. So, and they theorize they could be the ancestors of the human race. That stuff's pretty darn old, by the way. It goes back to before World War II. And there was actually strange things I've read over the years. There was a guy in Germany, can't remember his name, I'd have to go research the name, but he theorized that Germans were the descendants of aliens. We get into that weird stuff and some of that really crazy stuff and some of that really racist stuff. But that was his theory, that particular dude. And he had a big following. So, and there's that idea, though, I don't think was unique to him. I just happened to be reading up on weird stuff in the Third Reich. I'm like, whoa. some people were out there, you know. Years and years and years ago, I was like, way weird stuff. Um, so, but I bumped into that before. Like, there's like several people who had that idea, and then we see it recycled again in like the works of Stitchin. I don't remember his first initials or name. And there's another guy as well. I think the other guy's still, maybe, I think one of them's dead, one of them's still alive. And it's still being recycled in some other more modern theories, even past them. Like, was it the Starborn? The reason your ADHD is. I've read some weird stuff on the internet over the years where I'm like, whoa, there's this rabbit hole taking me. You know, you can really fall down those internet rabbit holes, and pretty soon you're like, wow, seriously? Because the guy with the Starborn, I was actually here in California, it seems to me. He was up the hill. My memory serves me correct, but he wasn't a good people. He's not a good person. I'm sure he's still around. Despite his website, I did research. He's not a good person, should not be trusted. Just putting it out there. Something that kind of name like that. Yeah. So, back my mind is pinging that I know why I'm saying that. I do, but I have to double check it before I just put it on here. I'm just saying, I know he was in trouble for some not good things. Just saying. So, but that was like years ago. God, that was a long time ago. Wow. So, this idea that aliens could be our ancestors, you know, you see it in Battlestar Galactica, you see it, you know, the original. Though I think at the end of the remake, you're getting kind of like the same idea. You see it in, it just gets recycled over and over again. Now, who put it out there first? I don't know. I don't know when that became part of the group mind, if you will. I know that once they thought there was like canals on Mars, which is like the 1800s, right? They started thinking of alien life, and they imagined it as human. So this archetype is pretty darn old, okay? And so I think it's been recycled multiple times by multiple people in various forms. And we can argue about whether there's human-looking aliens for real or not. I don't know. I know they're in the UFO book. And, but more importantly, they've also been made to fit different people's agendas. So if you're into peace, love, and brotherhood, that's the way they are, you know. If you're into some sort of weird superiority thing, that's the way they are. And of course, you belong to that group, you know. You know, if you're envisioning them as angelic, that's the way they are. If you're envisioning them as demons, that's the way they are. And I'm just saying, I've run across too many different presentations of the humanoid aliens that basically, guys, you can do whatever you want with them, is what I'm telling you. You don't have to be hook your horses up to just the one wagon way, the first way that you come across. You can pretty much make these guys any way you want. GURPS went with them. They're basically good. Okay, that's what GURPS went with. Okay. They say their civilization invented warp drive 2 million years ago. I think they have different kinds of drive systems in this book. You know, whatever faster than light system you're using. Which they used to explore nearby stars and set up colonies on other worlds. Some believe they established a colony on Paleolithic Earth. And the Homo sapiens sapiens either resulted from genetic experiments or are the descendants of colonists themselves. And it goes on to talk about how they flourished. And they encountered the Alphans, and a series of violent interstellar wars brought about the Low Alliance and the Great Council of Worlds, which oversees it. So we've got that, so we've got some really good tropes there from sci-fi. The Council of Worlds. Starman has that. They're all like really weird looking, geometric shapes and stuff. Look like chess pieces and starfish. Starfish people. I'm going to have to figure out a way to do an episode on starfish people from the Japanese films. That's what I call them, the starfish people, because I don't have any other way to explain them. So, it gives you a nice background on them. They're basically a peaceful union of 5 important worlds. They do concern themselves with various matters, including, of course, planet Earth. The council uses a force of flying saucers. So these are going to be the guys in the flying saucers that have a great big eye. So, you could really play into these guys having something to do with the big eye symbol, like on the dollar bill and the pyramids and all that stuff. I mean, you could really run with this in their background. Their descriptions are human size, with deep tan and a high forehead. They are very attractive to humans and often have long blonde or red hair. So I think this would fall under what the UFO people call the Nordic type. Crewmen from the saucers of the eye wear blue jumpsuits and matching boots. Individual worlds have their own preferred colors. Alamor is silver. Metanor is light brown. Archon is austere black. Raldor is vivid green. And Loi itself is a vivid gold. Independent missions to Earth are not illegal, but any findings must be taken to the Great Council. So basically they're coming and visiting and, I don't know, checking out the humans. They've got their own agendas. So then they give us some information about them if you're playing GURPS, how to make a Loi. Now, what kind of points you're dealing with to make them. The regular one is 115 points. Gives some advantages they should have, some IQ modifiers, things like that. So figure they're smarter than your average human. They get a bump on that. Then they should be attractive, because we've already mentioned that. High technology, they say they're +3 on the TLs, and that is 100. And then they have notes. Most Loi encountered by PCs will have a duty to the Great Council, though not all will. And then that gives you some negative points for the duties, whatever it is that they, how that affects them. Because GURPS does that whole point system thing. And I'm only explaining this to give you an idea. Like the average PC, your average human is like 100 points. Sometimes it's less, like if you're playing a kid or something, but they usually have you as 100 points. Unless you're like a superhero or stuff, then you're very high pointed. But that's kind of how GURPS is set up. Okay, then the Loi mutant, which we're going to get to, they're like 295 points, and they're unique, and we'll see why. So they had that war with the Alphans, another alien species, and the Alphans got it in their head to mutate the Loi, and they had some kind of plan. And of course, the plan didn't work the way anybody wanted it to on the Alphan side. And of course, the Loi weren't happy about that, so that created a whole group of outcasts who are just trying to survive and not get wiped out by either side. But they have psychic abilities. They're pretty long-lived. They had their own planet at one point. They settled, they tried to get away, basically. They were exiled from the Alliance and forced to flee. The Alphans as well, who had invested much research in their creation. So the Alphans want to control them. They want freedom. The Loi rejected them, so they went and set up their own planet, which happened to be in our solar system. Which, for whatever reason, the Loi had as uncharted at the time. Anyway, that was Atalan, a planet between Mars and Jupiter. You know where that asteroid belt is? That planet? Now, if you read the books like Stitchin' and some of the others, you're going to be like, oh, that's Marduk, right? Okay, so if you read any of those, it might run under some other names as well. The asteroid belt is supposed to be this destroyed planet. All right. So basically, they realized it had gotten discovered by the Alphans, so they rigged their planet to destroy, blow up, trick the Alphans into thinking that they're no more, when in fact they relocated to Earth and hid out here. And they've been hiding ever since, though not all of them. Some of them are moved off Earth as well. So they established a civilization in the mountainous islands in the middle Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so they're supposed to be the Atlanteans. All right, so but they knew something happened to them. This is like a long thing. Like I'm trying to, like I read it. Anyway, a group of them left and set up a colony on another planet in the solar system where they are hidden. And Atlantis got destroyed. When did they get destroyed? They got destroyed. I forget who destroyed them. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that they got destroyed. If you want to know the details, get the book. It's a good read. Anyway, the ones still on Earth for a while pretended to be gods. You know, they did all that stuff. They live a long time, if not practically immortal. And it's because of the tinkering with their genetics. They got all these weird powers. But basically, now the ones on Earth live incognito lives. So these would make good NPCs. Don't know if you would want to release these guys as player characters unless you're doing some kind of superhero thing set in the atomic war, though you could move it forward. So they've got a whole bunch of information on these guys, the technology level. Got a sample ship. And so that is really the first alien they talk about. Then they have the Metarons, which maybe I'll do a separate one on. Maybe I should treat each alien separately. And they have the Alphans, the Vortune. So they give you, I think they give you four. Yeah, they give you four alien species to talk about. So before we move on to the other ones, because they're all different, they're all totally different, and some of them are kind of cool. The humanoid ones. Now, it's the modern era, and like I said, it seems to be whoever's talking about them, whatever their concept of, beauty and intellectual wonderness and good looks and all that stuff, good physical specimen, tends to be heavily loaded by whoever's telling the story. Just seems to be that way. Okay. So let's say there are humanoid people visiting Earth or your planet of your imagination. My argument for the Loy, or I think they go under a bunch of other names, and ufology is what it's called, I think. They don't have to look Nordic. Why couldn't they look like an exceptional example of what the Japanese think is beautiful and exceptional physical specimen, right? Or you could say the same for any culture that's seeing them. Maybe they're a bigger diverse group than we give them credit for, right? Or maybe they human beings see them in the way that we're primed to see them. So if you're say from Africa and you're an African tribal person and you were to have a UFO experience, then what you would see would be your idea of angelic African spectacularness. Just putting that out there. They do not need to look like Nordic dudes, especially not in a role-playing game. You've got a range. You could even make them have a different funky skin color, like nobody has on this planet. But on the other hand, if you want them to blend in, then they need to blend in somehow, but yet look just a little bit different. So think about your setting. Think about if your setting is one that's human dominant, what these humans from another planet might look like, because that's what we're talking about. You know, if you look at like old literature, like Edgar Rice Burroughs, for example, or the guy who wrote Lieutenant Gulliver Goes to Mars. I think it's got a name like that, Goes to Mars, Vacation on Mars. I'll have to go look. It's one of the early Go to Mars books. Which, by the way, Gulliver in that book, he's kind of lame. But the aliens are interesting. Anyway, in those books, everybody's got unique skin colors. That's a pretty big trope for back then on the Sword and Planet books. And when they're visiting Mars, Alita is another example. I've read that one. They have strange skin colors. But in Edgar Rice Burroughs, the dominant human species on the planet is red-skinned, black-haired, brown-eyed. They look like Native Americans, more or less, but redder. But that's the feeling you get. He has yellow-skinned people, he has black-skinned people, he has white-skinned people, for example, on that planet. Okay, and yet they're a little bit different than the humans on Earth. So that's why everybody thinks the guy who ends up on Mars, they think he might be one of the white-skinned Martians because he's so light. And, you know, everybody's all ooh and ah over them who don't know what's become of the white-skinned Martians. Once you know what became of them, you're like not so ooh and ah over them. But they're one of the ancient cultures that everybody looks up to and considers an ancestral culture. to the current culture, which is the dominant culture, which is the red-skinned folks, who say that they're a hybrid of all the groups that were there. So they're a hybrid between the yellow, black, and white group, and that made them. So, and they think pretty much everybody else is extinct. Not so, but So, when you're looking at this stuff, keep in mind that people were writing with a great variety of skin tones and colors. Alita, I think it's got blue people, green people, orange people off the top of my head, for example. The green people were not very nice, and they didn't have multiple arms. No, they were like olive green humans. But I think the blue people were even worse. It seems to me. I had notes on all this at one point because I was doing like Barsoom stuff for a while, and I had like what had happened, timelines, and all these books because they're all about Mars, and seeing how they kind of like overlapped. It was interesting. So, but when you make these guys, if you have the humanoids, visiting the lower tech humans, you can decide just how alien these guys are. Are they human, or are humans seen in the way humans want to see them? Like, do they actually look differently? Is there some reason why everybody sees the bestest version, or are there different skin tones in their population? And they're like, well, for Europe, we'll send the majority of the guys who look European. For the African subcontinent, we'll send predominantly dudes who look African. So like, do the different planets? These are all things you can ask yourself, or do you just want to go with a specific look? And all the dudes coming in who are this group look that way, but you don't have to do it like GURPS has it. Is what I'm getting at. You can fiddle with it. Anyway, so that's my. Anyway, these guys are supposed to be benevolent. They have their own agendas, but they're like the nice aliens, sorta. But are they? I mean, they're going to be nice as long as Earth does what they want, right? So when you're doing a trope like that, that's something to think about. They're mostly benevolent. Mostly. But if Earth makes them angry, okay. Now the next guys we'll do the Meterons. I just want to do aliens, guys. I want to do some aliens for a while. Next week, hopefully, I'll do something on the Meterons. These are bad guys, and they're bad in a glorious way. I remember why about these guys. These are the guys that UFO movies are made of. So at any rate, I hope you enjoyed looking at GURPS's ideas on aliens, because they've got some good ones. And we'll get to the elephants. They're awesome in their own way. And then the Vortune and who they are eventually as well. But I wanted to take a look at these background aliens because if you decide to do like a 1950s style game or an X-Files style game, for example, these are the type of aliens you can think about and add into a game and have a lot of fun with. And you can have competing alien camps and all that good stuff. And the poor humans are caught in the middle. So think about X-Files. Think about, all the old sci-fis, 1950s stuff. All our classic UFO stories we've all heard off and on through the ages. And this is the kind of pulp that were type aliens that we're looking at. But some of them you could have in far-flung future settings. There's no reason why you couldn't. You could still have the Loi as they are presented in GURPS, but in the future, someplace, in like a traveler gang. Or you could have, traveler characters discover the Metarons and the threat they are to the rest of the civilized galaxy. For example, or the Alphans and the threat they pose to the rest of the civilized galaxy. Because I'm telling you, the Metarons and the Alphans, they could be really good bad guys in a traveler setting, especially if you have a lot of even the non-human, the other aliens in traveler. These guys could be a problem for if you traveler, got them set up for that rule system. But the basic background information, yeah. So I'm going to stop here because we're at 30 minutes, which is way too long, which is another one of my problems. I babble, and rabble. And everyone have a great day. Peace, love. Tell people you care about that you love them. Remember, your emotional state is your emotional state. And we all have bad days. Talk to people that you trust who aren't going to, tell your problems to the universe. Find someone who will listen. If you're having a bad day, sometimes that's all you need. But act. Don't react to others. Make sure that your reactions are appropriate and that you're not coming preloaded to just blow up on somebody. I've been on the receiving end of that way too much of my lifetime. I'm having a good time. I'm doing my thing. I haven't bothered anyone. And then they're exploding for no reason. Well, there is a reason. They have a lot of stress behind them, obviously, but it's not an excuse to be abusive to another human being. So I'm just putting that out there. If you're edgy, whatever, that's cool. We've all been there. But find somebody who can be that buddy. All right? Even if it's a dog or the cat that hangs around work or whatever. Start bringing it kitty chow and talking to it in the back 40, whatever. But find somebody you can just get stuff off your chest. Because if you build it up and then it explodes, and you're going to explode on people who they really don't have anything to do with the issue at all. And then you'll be like, you don't want to be that person. Nobody wants to be that person. So have a great day. Peace, love. Have fun with old sci-fi. Figure out how to put some old sci-fi into your games. Because old sci-fi is fun as heck. Wasp women and spider women and mutant men. It's good stuff. The Thing. This time period brought us The Thing. Eventually, we got the remake, but I've seen the original too. The original's good too. So, everybody have a great, great day. Okay? Like, subscribe, comment. And I have an idea for the art. Everybody says I should have art back here on these boards. Definitely need to make this room look. It's gray. Everything's gray. Calming shades of gray. An artificial light. Why? I do have a theory about this stuff. I think office cubicles can cause it's kind of psychosis, and people don't realize it. It's gray everywhere, muted colors everywhere. It's It's not healthy. Not healthy. I'm going to have to fix it. I'll have to see what I have around the house. I can fix it. Just turn this into my personal office. Just take it over. Laura's office. Anyway, everybody have a great day as I stake out my claim. I'll have to share it though soon. We have a lot of phone calls to make, and this room is going to be hopping because it has 2 phones. So I'll have to share next week. Oh, don't want to share. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment. Have a beautiful day, peoples. Bye.